A warm welcome to Madam Rasika Chaube. Madam, please.
Thank you, Nirmala. I hope you all can hear me.
Clear, loud and clear.
Okay. So first and foremost, I would like to apologize to you all for my coming late. I was in another webinar and I have to go for another webinar. So I am just hopping from webinar to webinar. Good evening to all speakers and participants of today's webinar. First of all, foremost, my compliments to Steel and Metallurgy for organizing this webinar on flat and long products. Well, I'm privy to the fact that you all have been organizing several other webinars which are of immense import to the steel sector, and my compliments for that. And I hope that you continue to do so, and in the interest of the steel sector. Now, all of you are aware that steel sector with its flat and long products play a very, very important role in the development of the country for any economy. Now, in India, the percentage share of the long product as well as the flat is actually 52% and 48%. I mean, we use more of longs, less of flat product. And within this, 95% is in the non-alloy segment. Now, the thing which I would like to highlight here is to share some data which I have about other countries. When you see the usage of long and flats in other countries, you'll find that if you take US, you will find that they use around 30% long and around 70% flat. Similarly, in Europe, the usage of longs is around 38% and we have 61% flats. And similarly, in China also, there's 40% and 60%. Now, the reason I'm sharing this with you is whether we should also look towards changing our configuration in terms of the longs and flat usage. I do agree that most of our secondary steel producers are using and making long products, but we must consider whether we should move towards a little bit of change in the manner in which a percentage of usage of long and flat products is taking place here. Now, this is because this is now not only because it is a need of the hour, it is because using flat products, we will be able to open up more scope in the construction sector. Because every time we have interacted with other ministries, they have tried to tell us the cost angle, the heaviness and the other aspects and non-availability of technology. So I think that can get resolved to some extent if we try to shift over to using flats in the construction sector. Now, having said this, Ministry of Steel, the way the current, whatever the current composition is, Ministry of Steel is trying to do a lot to promote usage of whether it's long or flat in the in all the sectors, basically, whether it is building and construction or infrastructure, electronic and packaging, automotive, defense, whatever be it. We are very concerned that there should be an increase in the usage of both these products and in turn steel in the economy. And you're aware that apart from steel, the Ministry of Steel per se, the government of India itself has announced many packages, which in turn mean that there'll be definitely an enhanced usage of steel. Now, if you look at road transport and highways, they are going to spend 1.5 lakh crores in the days to come. And that would mean, and definitely a huge amount of steel would be consumed there. Now, apart from that, if you oil and gas sector, which we recently interacted with, 8 to 10 million tons of steel is going to be used in the next 10 years. Then urban development is talking about 90,000 crores worth of expenditure, which would mean that a huge amount of steel again is going to be consumed. And then there are various schemes which have been announced by the government of India. Now the Atmanirbhar Bharat affordable rental housing complexes. After that, there we have the rural demand and PMAY, that is for the rural development sector, Pradhan Mantri Gramin Sadak Yojana. And then we have the Udan development, that is 100 new airports. All these, I mean, I'm just naming a few illustrative schemes. These all tantamount to huge amount of usage of steel. And we in the Ministry of Steel would want to see that both the flats and longs are utilized in these sectors, and we don't lose any opportunity to interact with these ministries and ensure that the steel usage and for that matter, domestic steel usage goes up. For this, what we are doing in the ministry, we are following a multi-pronged approach. Now, one approach is that we hold a large number of seminars and workshops for enhancing steel usage. Now, some of you would be aware that we have interacted with the Ministry of Railways and Defense and held a huge seminar with them in the month of December. Thereafter, we had a workshop with oil and natural gas. And on 11th of August, we are planning to have one with Civil Aviation and Ministry of Urban Affairs. Now, this is going to be the main purpose. Why do we hold these workshops? It is to bring about the demand visibility. We get the users and get the demand visibility, especially in terms of the kind of steel they would be requiring and the areas in which they would be requiring steel. And then we try to give them a supplier side visibility. Now, what our producers can make. So basically, the purpose of holding these workshops is to utilize the schemes which are available, bring the suppliers, bring the producers together, become the interface. Because their long-term perspective plans will not be available to you in a way in which we can get it for you. So that is the main purpose, what we try to do in the Ministry of Steel. We try to get the maximum details which otherwise would not be offered to you. So I would be utilizing this forum. I would request all of you that on 11th of August, when we are having this, you must participate and take the maximum advantage of this seminar which we will be organizing. Now, when we have these seminars and workshops, two to three things which emerge and which the users generally tell us is that they do desire to use steel, but the desired thickness of steel, sometimes the desired specification is not available. Now, that is what we would want now when you people are having a webinar like this, to mull over the requirements which people project and see how we can meet their specification. We would not want that if a bridge is constructed, we get everything from China. Why can't we make those things here? Why can't we produce and roll out these things here? Secondly, they say the quantity requirement, and our people feel that the quantity of requirement sometimes is less of value-added steel, so we can't produce. Somebody will have to make that here. I mean, we cannot have the quantity being the only reason of not making an item here. Then the construction people also point out that we require corrosion-resistant steel, which again is not available in India. So the point is that when we have these workshops, we come to know the constraints, the requirements of both sides. And I think when you have webinars like this, you should try to address what is needed in the country and why we are not able to make it. So that would be that, and that is what is the purpose and why we are meeting, why you people meet so often. Now, here I would also like to share with you certain data about the imports which are taking place. Now, some of you would be aware that in the financial year which has just passed, we imported 6.7 million ton of finished steel. Now, the value of this finished steel was approximately 46,000 crores. Now, against this, we have exported 8.3 million ton of steel, but the value of that is only 36,700. Now, what does this indicate? That what we are exporting is at the lower end of the value chain, and what we are importing is at the higher end of the value chain. Hello?
Yeah, madam, we can hear
Hello.
you. You're
audible.
because clearly.
I'm visible because I can't see you all on either here. Okay. So
we can see
the thing is that now the issue which emerges is that the fact that we are importing items like GPZ, DC sheets, GI sheets, electrical sheets, color coated sheets. Now these are value added products which currently we are not importing, not making in the country. Now, and if you see, we have just put in place a steel import monitoring mechanism. And thereafter, after analyzing the information that has come from there, is that in general, what we are exporting, the value of those items is between $400 to $1,000 per ton. But what we are importing ranges from $3,000 to $4,000 per ton. Now, this is a major challenge we have in front of us. We should now start making these value-added products here. That is the biggest challenge, and you people sitting together should work out how we can bring about this kind of an import substitution. This is a major thing which we should look and try to address. Now, in this regard, I would like to say that our minister has recently launched a scheme called Purvodaya. Now, the purpose of Purvodaya is nothing but setting up an integrated steel hub in the eastern region of the country. Why we have chosen the eastern region is, and the states of Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, Jharkhand, and West Bengal, is because they are best suited in terms of resources and they have the locational advantage. Now, what we want to do is to create a kind of steel clusters around ISPs where we can have produce value added steel, or somewhere close to a demand center where again we can have clusters which can make value added steel. Now the main purpose of doing this is we realize that secondary steel needs to be supported, secondary steel sector needs to be supported, and they are the people who can bridge this gap. This import of high value items it may not be possible for the ISPs to make because of economies of scale, but it can be made by the secondary steel sector if they are given the right ecosystem. And that is what we are trying to create through this scheme called Purvodaya. Now, in Purvodaya, when we come up with this steel cluster, the main thing is to have units who could make items which I just mentioned, which we are spending so much money on. Maybe the quantities are less, but in terms of price, it's very high. Now, we want to create an ecosystem where you would have a multimodal connectivity. Now, we would even try to give unencumbered land parcel and ensure that it is available after talking to the state governments. Now, ensure water availability, open access to power, single window clearance, then common testing facilities, and even a kind of setup where skill development center can come up and which can help these small people to come up and establish. So the main purpose of what the Ministry of Steel is trying to do is to create an ecosystem whereby value-added steel can start getting produced within the country and our dependence on import can get reduced. And that is where this is our step towards our Atmanirbharta. And these figures speak volumes, and this is how we make an attempt to interpret them and try to create an ecosystem where you people can benefit out of it. Another thing I would like to mention is what Ranjan just mentioned is about the continuous casting. I mean, yes, there are 55% of the capacity which is there in longs is already switched over to continuous casting, and it has its advantages as has been mentioned by Mr. Ranjan. Your yield goes up and even the consumption of power comes down. And I think my request would be that others could also make an attempt to move towards it. It will be a win-win for the entire steel sector at large. Lastly, is that my only request from all of you who are sitting here together is try to make a roadmap as how that that how the ISPs and the secondary steel sector is able to supply high performance and value added steel, and what kind of technology you have to adopt so that you can do that and ensure that the best is available within the country. Now, my only request to you all is that may utilize this forum, work out in a kind of a roadmap, and whatever way you would want the Ministry of Steel to help you out, you can bring it to our notice so that whatever hiccups or whatever nitpicks are there, we can resolve them for you. With this, I wish all of you who are participating in this webinar all the best, and again wish Steel and Metallurgy all the best for their future endeavors. Thank you.
One of our biggest panelists who is there here as a customer, Mr. Alakesh Roy, Managing Director of Zamil Steel. May I request Mr. Alakesh Roy to pose his question?
This is Alakesh Roy, Managing Director of Zamil Steel in India and General Director for Zamil Steel in Vietnam. Your speech was like a dream come true. It was like a wish coming true someday. Now, what my request is, you have talked about the demand supply visibility and also regarding the specifications. Now, my request is that the all the IS relevant to steel with respect to tolerance and specifications specifically are very dated. And one of the points that you're touching, that if you have to go up the ladder in the value addition, our specifications need to be more stringent. I'll give you a simple example. Obviously, this is a flat and long product rolling day, but on the metallurgy front, all the specification you have got a YS value which is minimum, no maximum limit is there. So as a result, you have got a band which is not a viable band in the fabrication and the end use. And when you are marrying the products like a long product along with a flat product and also a tube everywhere, so the band plays a major role. And until as you upgrade yourself in the wires values, you cannot get a structure which is world class, or we can go up the value chain. This is one. Another important point which you have made is, I think, very essential, is the MOQ factor. Most of the sections are getting stuck because of MOQ. So we need to rationalize also the sections which are rolled and which are in the catalog. So as designers of steel and as users of steel, we want to have a better clarity of the products that will be available. I'll tell you, we are doing all the PGCL substations. Now what happens is, it doesn't matter who is the end customer to deliver the product. At the end of the day, PGCL requires a substation, they require steel. There will be a manufacturer who will manufacture the steel. Now, if every time the project gets delayed due to the MOQ issues, minimum order quantity, it becomes a major hurdle. So I'd love to interact with you at any seminar. I think one of the seminars that you are telling is on the user side. I think the end use should be kept in mind while you are having such seminars on rolling day and all those things, because that is the most important. Until and unless the designers are, all the steel specifications are in the mind of the designers, it will be very, very difficult to put steel into use as you are envisaging for the next 30 or 40 years in India. This is my submission. Thank you, ma'am, for a very interesting and encouraging speech.
Let me just share with you once before I go. I mean, very recently we had a workshop or a round table wherein we invited the designers, we invited the architects, we invited academicians from IIT Roorkee, IIT Hyderabad, basically for the same purpose as what you are talking about. We want all these people to be involved so that, so that these people, they can actually create an ecosystem which is very, very, where steel can become the basic for designing. Because right now we don't have standards, we don't have, specifications which are meant for that. Even people are suggesting that even if they want to think steel, they're not able to do that for want of that. So we are roping in the designers and we are trying to do that.
Only suggestion, madam, you also involve the industry, because I am exporting from Vietnam to USA, but I am unable to do it from India to USA. There is a huge shift in the usage of steel across the world. So this shift is happening because there are demands. So there are demands even in the Vietnam market for the steel being used from Korea or China. But when I come to India, we don't get that grade, or at a grade which is equivalent and it is manageable. So some of the grades are not produced at 310, some of the grades are not produced at 350, some of the grades are not produced at 450. So when I want to make an optimum design and reduce the weight and compete in the international market, this limitation is hitting me in India, whereas it is not hitting me in Vietnam.
Yeah. So that is why when we have these seminars, we ensure that the producers, the users, the architects, the designers, everyone is involved in the thing. So when you can join us on the 11th, and I think you will get an idea about the construction sector. Right. Thank you.